Have you ever heard the term Tantra and wondered, what it really is?
Oh, yeah.
It's a term that it's so often misunderstood. Sometimes it's tied to sensational ideas, maybe even negative ones.
Absolutely. It definitely carries a lot of baggage in popular culture, often it's completely removed from its actual roots and, spiritual goals.
Right. So today, that's what we're doing. A deep dive into the world of Tantra. We're trying to cut through some of that confusion, really explore what this system of thought is, about its origins, principles, practices, aims. We've got some material here to help us unpack it all.
And what jumps out immediately is that Tantra isn't like just one single thing. It's complex,
Yeah.
layered. It's not monolithic at all. You've got different paths, different interpretations that developed over, centuries. It's less a simple definition, more like a rich tapestry.
A tapestry. I like that metaphor.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pull at that first thread then. Where did this all start? What are the origins?
Well, the material points to it developing around the 5th or maybe 6th century CE. It didn't just pop up overnight. It sort of evolved, primarily in places like Kashmir, eastern India.
Right.
And specific sites like the Kamakya Temple in Assam seem to have been really significant early on. The key thing, though, is seeing it as a new system of thought for its time. It grew alongside the mainstream Vedic stuff, but, it took its own path.
Okay, took its own path. That implies it was doing something different. How did it differ from that established Vedic approach?
That's really fundamental. Vedic practice often centered on, external rituals, strict social roles, learning from texts via priests. Tantra offered something quite different.
How so?
It often challenged or just completely bypassed many traditional Vedic rites and, importantly, those rigid social divisions like the Varna system.
Ah, okay. So that means...
It means it was potentially open to way more people. It wasn't necessarily tied to your birth or social standing in the same way.
So less about who you were born as and more about what exactly?
More about you, your own potential, your inner capacity, your energy, and how you actively work with that energy. There's a really strong focus on understanding and using the human body, its energy systems, directly for, spiritual growth.
That focus on the body, the energy, that feels really central. So if we had to boil it down, what is Tantra at its core? What's the main goal?
At its heart, really, it's about union with the divine, with ultimate consciousness.
Okay.
The practices, the philosophy, they really revolve around Shiva and Shakti. You can think of them as the divine masculine and feminine principles or energies.
Right, the core energy.
Exactly. And they're not just out there, they're seen as being within the universe and crucially within us too. So the system is fundamentally about harnessing your own internal energy, using specific, often potent practices to speed up spiritual progress to reach liberation. And really important, the material makes it clear the aim isn't just intellectual knowledge, what's sometimes called jhana. It's about direct embodied experience. They often call this kaya yoga.
Kaya yoga, direct embodied experience. That sounds, intense. So it's not something you just grasp intellectually. You have to actually live it, experience it.
Precisely. It's deeply experiential. Which brings us to how you actually get onto this path.
Right.
Because the material is very clear. This isn't typically something you learn just by reading books or being casually interested.
Ah, yes. The whole idea of initiation comes up strongly.
Absolutely critical. Formal initiation, called diksha, is presented as basically essential for even entering the tantric system properly and making real spiritual progress. It's like the gateway.
And who holds the key to this gateway?
The guru. The role of the guru is just foundational. And the material even notes finding a truly qualified guru today is considered really, really difficult. It highlights how rare and important they are.
Why so vital? What exactly does the guru do?
Well, a qualified guru does several absolutely crucial things. First, they provide that necessary initiation, the diksha. Without that, you're not really on the path in the authentic sense.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second, they guide the practitioner on their specific journey. Because it's not one size fits all. The path can look very different depending on the individual.
So it's personalized.
Tailored.
Exactly. Which leads to the third thing, maybe the most practical and crucial aspect. The guru assesses the student's individual capacity, their nature, their specific energy, sometimes even linked to things like body type.
Really?
Yeah, to give them the right mantra, the one that's most suitable and effective for them.
Mantra. Okay, another huge piece. The material talks about mantra satana. the practice with mantras as being fundamental.
It really is. And it's not just any mantra. The text describes different categories, siddha, saddhya, siddha, saddhya. But the point is, you can't just grab one from a book and expect it to work or even be safe. The guru's selection, tailored to you, is what makes the practice effective. It's about the right key for the right lock, essentially.
And are there specific types of mantras that are considered especially powerful? Yes. Bija mantras, or seed sounds, get special mention. They're seen as particularly significant, often more potent than longer mantras.
Seed sounds, like condensed energy.
Kind of, yeah. Short, powerful sounds. And getting them transmitted correctly, with guidance from a guru, is considered absolutely critical.
Okay, so we've covered origins, core ideas, the necessity of initiation, the guru, the right mantra. And the material also says that practitioners themselves aren't all at the same level.
That's right. The system often categorizes practitioners based on their spiritual capacity or qualification. It's often described as a kind of progression.
Stages.
Yeah, stages like pashu, which means animal-like, referring to someone still quite bound by ordinary limitations and desires. Then vira, the heroic stage, someone actively working with these energies, challenging limitations. And finally, divya, the divine stage, much closer to liberation, embodying those divine qualities. The practice itself is meant to help you move through these.
Interesting. And the practice itself has stages too.
It does. The material outlines different yogas or stages of practice that might be emphasized depending on the path or the person. Things like Jnana Yoga focusing on knowledge, Kriya Yoga focused on action, ritual, Chari Yoga conduct, discipline, and then ultimately that Kaya Yoga we talked about, the embodied union, the direct experience.
You also mentioned earlier there are different paths within Tantra itself, Dakshina Marga and Vama Marga. This sounds like where some of the maybe controversy or misunderstanding comes in.
It often does. The material explains the Dakshina Marga, or the right-hand path, generally aligns more with, let's say, traditional or conservative practices.
Okay.
It often uses pure offerings, stays closer to accepted societal norms, but still pursues tantric goals. The Vama Marga, or left-hand path, that's where things get more unconventional.
Not so.
It often incorporates practices that might seem challenging or even taboo from a mainstream viewpoint. This is where the famous or infamous 5 M's sometimes come in.
The 5 M's, what are they referring to?
Well, the material references these as practices sometimes used on the left path. Traditionally, they involve things like fish, meat, wine, perched grain, and ritual sexual union.
Right. Often misunderstood.
Hugely. The idea isn't hedonism. It's performed in a very specific, ritualized, controlled way. The aim is supposedly to confront and transform powerful worldly energies and attachments into spiritual power.
So working with things usually avoided.
Exactly. Working with energies often suppressed in other paths to transcend duality. But the material also notes there are different views, like on food vegetarian versus non-vegetarian offerings. It stresses the outer form isn't the main point. It's the inner intention, the spirit behind it, how it's directed towards the deity.
That's a really crucial distinction. It's about context and intention, not just the act itself. Okay, so Tantra has these different paths, levels, practices, and the material also mentions different applications, like achieving different kinds of results.
Yes, absolutely. It's presented as a system with potent techniques, and these techniques can be applied in various ways. Broadly, the material categorizes these as sattvic, aimed at positive outcomes like healing, peace, spiritual insight, and tamasic, aimed more at worldly results, which could potentially be seen as negative or, harmful depending on the goal and context.
And this tamasic side, is that where the popular idea of black magic connects to Tantra?
That's exactly the connection the material makes. It clarifies that what people often fear or misunderstand as black magic falls under a specific application within Tantra called abhichara.
Abhichara.
Yeah, and this falls squarely into that tamasic category of tantric practices.
So let me get this straight. Tantra is the broader system, the knowledge, the techniques. And abhichara is just one specific, potentially harmful way some might apply those techniques.
That's precisely how it's presented. The material uses a great analogy, actually. Think of electricity. The energy and techniques of Tantra are like the electricity itself. You can use it to light up a room, power hospitals, that's like a sattvic use. Or you could use that same power in, say, an electric chair. That's analogous to a tamasic application, specifically abhichara.
So the system itself is neutral, but the user's intention gives the application its moral color.
According to this material, yes. The Tantric system provides powerful tools. How they're used, that depends entirely on the practitioner's intention, their level of skill, and the specific path they're following.
Wow. And does it say what kinds of results these techniques aim for?
It does. It actually lists 6 basic types of results achievable. Things like Shanti, which is about pacification, bringing peace. Vashakaran, related to controlling or attracting something or someone.
Okay.
Uchitan, which is about driving something away, causing disruption. And others related to creation, destruction, causing confusion. It shows the breadth of potential effects.
That really puts a different frame on it.
Yeah.
So given all this complexity, the need for a guru, the potential challenges, why would someone actually choose this path? What's the ultimate point beyond achieving these specific results?
Well, the primary aim overriding everything else is spiritual advancement, liberation. It's about recognizing and then overcoming all the internal stuff, the conditioning, the illusions, the limitations that keep us from seeing our true nature and achieving that union with the divine consciousness.
And that feels different from just, say, worldly success or purely intellectual understanding.
Oh, absolutely. The material really emphasizes this deep sense of inner freedom, the possibility of spontaneous spiritual insight and experience. That's highlighted as a key outcome of genuine tantric practice when it's aimed at liberation. Specific results might happen along the way, but the deeper purpose is that freedom, that direct embodied connection.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive really has shown, I think, that Tantra is, well, it's incredibly multifaceted. A complex spiritual system, ancient roots, very distinct from some other paths, with this huge emphasis on energy, on working with your own capacity and getting to that direct embodied experience, that Kaya Yoga.
Right. And crucially, it's not a solo journey. It requires that formal initiation, diksha, and the absolutely vital, tailored guidance of a qualified guru.
Who gives you the right tools, like that personalized mantra?
Exactly. And it acknowledges practitioners are at different levels, moving through stages like Pashu, Vira, Divya, and that the system itself holds different paths. The more conventional Dakshina Marga, the more challenging Vama Marga.
Offering these potent techniques that, as we discussed, can be applied for all sorts of results, good or bad, depending on intent.
Precisely. The practitioner's intent and skill really define the outcome.
It's such a vast topic, isn't it? And obviously what we've talked about here just scratches the surface. But hopefully it helps you, the listener, see the incredible depth and structure behind the term Tantra. Moving beyond maybe the common misconceptions to see it as a serious spiritual path focused on liberation and direct experience.
Yeah, it's a system designed for pretty profound transformation. But it clearly requires serious dedication, and that expert guidance is paramount.
So as you're thinking about all this, maybe consider this. How does a spiritual path, one that seems so ancient and structured, ultimately circle back to focusing so intensely on the individual's journey, requiring guidance that's tailored specifically to your unique energy, your capacity, your specific path? It's quite a powerful idea, isn't it?
It really is. It underlines that while the ultimate goal might be universal, that union, that liberation, the map to actually get there is deeply, deeply personal.
If this whole exploration into Tantra sparks something in you, maybe made you curious, we'd genuinely love to hear about it. You could share your thoughts, maybe any experiences you've had with spiritual practices that focus on energy or that kind of individual guidance. And of course, if you want to keep diving into fascinating topics like this, please do like this video. Maybe share it with someone else who'd find it interesting, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives.